Hey there, little lady.
Hello there, how are you doing?
I'm alright, fancy meeting you here.
Yeah, it's oddity, isn't it?
Yes, in spare car too.
Can I get in?
Yeah, go on.
Excellent. Today's vlog is mainly about the way that we collect. I want to talk about the collection because we're heading out now because we found on a CEX website that a local CEX branch has a Disney Infinity model that we want. The collection is pretty much complete for Disney Infinity. The only ones we haven't got are 4 or 5 of the crystal figures that came out with the first series of Infinity. And we're going to have a look at them. Normally, on this kind of situation, I would just order them, but the crystal figures are a bit special because the paint doesn't always fit properly on them. It doesn't stick. Especially the white paint that's used on some of them, like for the eyes on Lightning McQueen, which is the one we're looking at today. It sometimes comes off, and sometimes it comes off because of use, but sometimes it comes off in the postage, so it's not a great idea to have them posted out because it can get damaged. So we're going to have a look at them. Plus there are a couple of other things that we're going to have a quick look at while we're there, just because we're there basically. So today is all going to be about collecting. So we've hit the thing I was probably thinking we would with the Infinity, where it was actually, funnily enough, the white paint on it was actually alright. It was the sides had been quite scuffed, and it was quite noticeably damaged, so we didn't pick that one up. But it is what I thought we would end up talking about on this episode, about collecting. Sometimes things aren't good enough for the set, so you have to be prepared to say, even though we've travelled, even though we wanted it, it wasn't right, so we didn't get it. You've got to be prepared to say no when you're collecting, otherwise you end up with a huge amount of stuff that you've spent a huge amount of money on, and none of it's good enough, and you end up buying it again, so it's a waste. So be prepared, even though you travel, to say no. Right, now here's the final part of any collecting story, looking at the stuff that you've brought. Bought. Oh, let's have a look, because I'm not the only collector in the house. Jen here collects also. It's not games, she prefers her books. So let me just grab what I picked up. We'll go through it bit by bit. We'll talk about the process.
I just say, I'm not being uncouth. I was sat here, didn't make it writing text messages before she set this up.
Certainly was. So, the first thing is a U-Draw Instant Artist. I thought I already had this, but I don't. So we picked up another one, which came with a second U-Draw tablet. Looks in pretty good condition. I remember lots of people poo-pooing this and said, oh, it's a fad, it won't work, blah blah blah, and all that. And to be honest with you, this works fine. I think everything's here. Pen, tablet looks fairly unused. U-Draw is actually quite an interesting set of games and programs. It's pretty interesting because it has a wide range of things. It's a bit like the Wii in itself. It goes for an awful lot of things. This one's a drawing, I was going to say situation, a drawing studio. I'm going to give it a try, a proper Game Hammer review of the entire U-Draw thing once I've got them all. And I think it'll be very interesting to see what the range of this was and what kind of applications could be used with it. The next one, I didn't even know this existed until we found it. World Destruction League Warjets. Now we have the Tank Battles one, or whatever it was called, which turned out to be very nostalgic for some of our friends. They used to play it a lot when they were kids. So when they came around and saw that we had it in the collection, they were very interested in getting it. So a little bit worn, in fact a lot of worn there, but for the first time I've ever seen it in a reasonable condition. In fact, for the first time I've seen it ever, I thought we might as well have it. This one's in a lot better condition. MX Rider. Don't know an awful lot about this. Looks like your standard motocross racing game. Everything's here, even the little bump at the back you can see. Yeah, so it's got everything. Very happy with that. And last but not least, the reason we went to CEX today, aside from the Disney Infinity Crystal, I've already said why we didn't get that. It was damaged, and to be honest with you, if you buy something just because it's there, and even when it's damaged, you're always going to regret it because you end up forking out good money after bad to replace it eventually. so I'm just going to wait. It's not like they're hard to come by. But this one is Ape Escape 3 in excellent condition. It looks fantastic. Been looking forward to getting a copy of this for quite some time. So when this was there, along with the chance of picking up a Disney Infinity Crystal character, I thought, why not? Let's just go and do it. Very nice. So, Jen, do you want to talk to us a little bit about your collecting and why you do your collection?
Yeah, well, she's put me on the spot here a bit. One of the other things that I collect, it's not model railway stuff, but it's actually books, particularly classics in the main, but in particular bindings. And the important thing for these books is the spine. This is the Penguin Classics that replaced, and I'll take it out because I did get one of these, it replaced this binding. This is from the sort of about, I think this is 1970s into the early 1980s. They look like this. Back when colour printing was expensive, and they got the plain black spine there with the Penguin logo on the top. And then
so what's the spine on the other one then, as a comparison?
As a comparison,
oh, it's got a coloured top.
Yeah,
right.
These have a coloured top, which loosely equates to what particular area that the book is about. So there's red, there's orange, there's yellow, there's purple, there's blue, and there's green that I've seen.
Okay.
There may be others, but in fact, I only found out there was green the other day, and they appear to be religious space texts.
Right.
But for me, the front cover isn't quite as important. You can see there that they changed later on away from the really nice cover to the cover which I don't actually like as much. But on the spine, the book's the same, and the backs are the same. And I've got a few of those. There's another one there, George Eliot, Silas Marner. And, you know, for £1 each, they're well worth getting, but a lot of times you get them and the spines are beyond redemption. The covers are all crinkled and broken, and they can have like a horrible bend on them from being the spine broken.
Well, their books meant to be read, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but you can read a book carefully.
You certainly can, Rena. I certainly try.
And I succeed. But then this is the primary collection which I'm putting together, is the Penguin Popular Classics in this binding. It doesn't really show up quite so well because this is more of a pamphlet than a book. Trust me, War and Peace is available in this set, so you can imagine that's quite a thick book. But they're all the same size as this. But these were out in the 1990s, and I think they disappeared off the shelves in the bookshops. About 2004, 2005 was when they stopped being printed. But it appears that Penguin don't actually have a full list of all the ones that they published in this. I'm up to about 300. So occasionally I do still find ones which I don't have in the collection. So it's always nice to pick them up. And again, we pioneered the notion of the list that Zoe uses for her game collecting to avoid buying the same thing twice. That was actually initially pioneered to keep track of these, because when you've got 300 odd books, it's very difficult to remember exactly what you've got. So it's always useful to be able to compare with the list. And it's like today, I found 4 of these that I wasn't sure on. And when we went through the list, it turned out 3 of the 4 I already had. But it's always good to get one that I didn't already have. It's getting very difficult, because these were just a throwaway item. And unlike the Penguin Classics, which seem to persist, and these are a lot easier to get, these seem to suffer a lot from being read to the point where they disintegrate. But also, if you leave them in the sun, the paper goes very kind of dry and brittle, and I've seen them where they just disintegrate to dust, and the spine separates from the inside of the book. They were quite cheaply made.
Yeah, they're all sold for £1 regardless of size, weren't they?
Yes, leading to one of the nicknames of this set of books as being the Penguin Pound Classics. And when I was at university in the 1990s, you used to long for finding one of your textbooks on the reading list in this range, because it meant it was only £1.
Oh man, I would have loved that if my physics texts were £1.
No, there weren't many, because unfortunately, some of the philosophy textbooks, They were in the Penguin Classics, but they weren't in the Popular Classics because there were things like Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes or On Liberty by John Stuart Mill. But occasionally it was possible to find a book that you would use, like I've got a copy of Aesop's Fables, which were part of my ancient classics philosophy module, and also I've got a copy of Candide by Voltaire, which was on another reading list. So occasionally it happened, but I can't really think whether there'd be any. You might have found some for some of your more esoteric modules in the Penguin Classics. So I don't know, book by Ptolemy or something like that, or Principia, would that be Penguin?
Newton's Principia. You would not have been studying that for physics unless you were going deep into the history of physics, which the university didn't. There was a course on the history of physics, but it was more an overview to give you an idea of where the genre, not the genre, where the discipline had come from and where it was going.
I did that module. It was actually run by the philosophy department, and it was called History of Science.
It might have been when you did it, but the physics department adapted it in my second year for specific to physics.
Alright, because there was two modules. I did Philosophy of Science and History of Science, both in my first year. And they were quite interesting, because we got to handle rare first editions at Palace Green Library.
Wow.
You had to put on a set of white cotton gloves. And
Not bad.
They did allow you to turn the pages in a special room where everything was checked when you arrived and the doors were locked, and then they were checked when you left as well to make sure you weren't smuggling anything out.
I can't blame them. These things are worth more than most people's houses.
Yes, I mean, back then you could still buy a house for about £15,000 in certain parts of the north, and some of these books were worth significantly more than that.
Today's video is brought to you by my graphic novels, The Collected Life of Nopty Mouse, Volume 1, All Over the House, Volume 1, and All Over the House, Volume 2. Thank you.